Welcome to 3D.sk. On this site you can find thousands of images of whatever you need, from male and female characters, costumes, animals. We also have 3D scans, textures, texture maps, street photo reference, studio photo reference, and many more, which can all be found on this site. Hello, and in this tutorial we'll be talking about how to merge all the things that we've modeled or sculpted in the past few videos. So as you can see, we're carrying on from the latest Rania video, when we have most of the body. We're just missing the hands and the feet, and also some of the parts of the body are not connected, such as the upper body to the lower body and the legs, and the arms are not connected either. They're all their own subtools, as you can see here. So I'm going to be loading tools from my project. So we'll get up now, and I'm going to be going on hand 2. Let's get in the hand. Okay, now that we've got the hand, that is where we left off. Now I can get this. Okay, and I can go back to our previous sculpt, make sure it's the right one, which it is. Okay, now we can go to append and we can find wherever our hand is, which is here. As you can see, it's quite huge. So when we have this subtool, we're going to rotate it 90 degrees by holding down the shift key while rotating with this tool up here. Now I'm going to move it up. Obviously, because our hands are like this, her thumb will be facing forward, so you know that this is the left arm. Make sure I just scaled that down correctly on all axes. Let's move it into place. As you can see, it's a bit small, so we can go to floor. And we can just have a look at our hand and just roughly estimate how big it should be. Also just having a look at the arm. You can also do a technique that I like to do, which is rotate it 90 degrees on this axis, 90 degrees on this axis, and then put it on the head. Now if you put your own hand on your face, you'll be able to see that it's about the same size up to your hairline, from palm to the top of your fingers. So if I move this forward a little bit, so I can see, and then I can hide all the other subtools, which I don't really want to do because I don't really want to go back, but it needs to be a little bit bigger. Bottom of the palm to about maybe a tiny bit smaller. Just estimate it roughly to what your hand is. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it back to it was, holding down shift to make sure I get 90 degree. And to me, that looks about right. Maybe a tiny bit smaller. Just a tiny bit. Okay, now we can turn off floor. We can get it on the right angle. Look at the reference. Just judge where the palm starts and stops. I might put it down a tiny bit. Actually, I might keep it like that. Just trying to really see where that palm is starting. Yeah, I think this should be about right, about here. Now I'm going to rotate it into place. Trying to just get it kind of somewhere where I can do stuff with it. think still needs moving a little bit this way. I may go into this, hold down Control and Shift, use my trim curve. It's composed of multiple subdivisions, so let's delete lower. Let's cut it the right direction. Maybe it needs to be a tiny bit smaller. Tiny bit. And maybe rotate it a bit more this way. Scale it up a little bit. This is just about, it's about judging with your own eye. And also judging with the reference. I think that's about where I want to keep it. Maybe move it forward a little bit. Okay. I've decided that that's where I'm going to keep it. Now you can go to the mirror and weld, which is in geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld, and now you can see you've got two hands. Going to the bottom view. Obviously our hands are very static looking, but that's fine for this tutorial. Remember to turn on symmetry. Have I got symmetry on? Yes. No, symmetry is not on. Now it's on. I'd like to just move this up a tiny bit. Maybe about here. Okay. Let's have a look at the reference. Maybe I can just rotate them downwards a little bit. So we've got that nice kind of little bit of curvature to it. Okay, now that we do that, we do the exact same steps, except now we're going to load the foot that we did in the last tutorial. So I'm going to load foot 2. Give it a sec to load. Okay. Now we've got this foot that we last worked on in the last tutorial, which is kind of a base mesh of a foot, if you will. Okay, now we're going to go back to where we were before, which you'll see by the hands. We're going to append and find the foot. Oops. I clicked by accident. Let me just delete that. Go back to append, and there it is. As you can see, it's a bit big. Let's just move this down. Get her feet. Now another measuring is generally your foot is almost as long as your forearm. So we can do the same thing again to measure. This is using the knowledge of proportions that you usually will learn in traditional drawing and applying them to 3D modeling. In my opinion, it's very important to have at least basic understanding of traditional drawing before you start 3D modeling. I'm going to put it about there. Okay, let's rotate it back around. Now her feet look fairly normal. Apart from they're looking a bit, I don't really know the word, a bit too bent forward, or curved forward. I kind of want it a bit more like this. Maybe her feet are a little bit bigger. Obviously the forearm thing, it varies, but generally it's normally quite right. Move this down. So move it to about the heel area. Turn off this, just see if it looks right to you normally. My feet look just a tiny bit too big for me. Honestly, this also, while you're sculpting, you have to take in personal preference as well. Unless you've been given a brief that you have to model them in a certain way. Or you've got an art director. Because her feet are slightly curving downwards and the perspective is a bit skewed, I might use this back one more as reference. I think I'm okay with this though, as a starting point. Obviously something funky is going on with the leg back here. Well, that's just down to, obviously you've got to take in consideration that cameras have perspective built into them and fisheye lenses and all sorts of things, so you've got to compensate for that, and you've got to have the knowledge you need to be able to judge by yourself, not completely relying on reference. So let's just go here, just trying to judge really how big I want these feet to be. You can take a look at your own feet. I think for me this is fine. Just having a look at the more of a silhouette. Feel like I could rotate it down a little bit. Using this material you can kind of get like a slight silhouette just to see if it looks right. So I might scale that up a little bit. Have a look at the reference. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Okay, now we can go back to our basic material. It's all kind of matching up now. Go back to floor, move it back a little bit. We can seal that heel a little bit more. Move this down. Let's go to the front view. Rotate it a little bit. Do this. For rigging purposes, I might keep it straight, but for presentation, you would want all of this to be a little bit more relaxed. But if you were just doing like, say you were selling your 3D model as a base mesh for someone, you would want it in a bit more, maybe a relaxed pose, or maybe a couple of poses, such as an A pose with a lot more relaxed, and you could have a T pose. But for now, I think I'm okay with this, finally. Okay, so now, obviously, we have to make sure it's got no subdivisions, delete lower. We have to go to modify topology. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Okay, let's go to subtool. So I'm going to save this before I do this. I'm going to save it as Ronia 5, which I've been doing in the tutorials. Wait for that to save. Okay, now that I've saved it, I can carry on and not be too scared of mistakes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge down. Okay, now they're all one subtool. Going to merge. Before I do this, I'm just going to divide this a little bit, just so when I dynamesh it, it doesn't have loads of polygon squares showing and hard edges. So let's go back here, merge down, merge down, merge down, and merge down. Now you can see that it's all one object. So now what we can do is we can go geometry, we can go dynamesh, and let's just use 64. Okay, that, as you can see, gives us a horrible result. We obviously want a bit higher resolution than this. So let's go 128. Double that. That's a bit better, but still quite horrible. Let's see if we go over some smoothing. This is just getting rid of too much detail. So let's go up the next one. That would be 256. To me, this seems okay. We've still got some of the hard edges. Maybe we can go up a tiny bit more. Maybe we can go to 380. 384. This is better. This is what I want. Yeah. So let's just smooth. Just going around holding shift. Just smoothing some things out. Like this. This is going to need probably the most work. So I'm just going to get brush clay build up. Lightly. Just try and smooth this out. Smooth out the rib cage a little bit. It's a bit too obvious right now. And we're just going around smoothing things out. And what we can do here, I'm going to go brush trim dynamic. I'm going to just try and press control and drag to get rid of the dynamesh. It's looking a little bit strange. Let's just smooth all these polygons that are showing. Let's try and make a little bit more of a crease here with our brush dump standard BDS. Smooth that out. I like to use the inflate tool to kind of bring that together again. But you got to make sure, because it's going to also do it on that angle. So you got to go back with your brush trim dump standard and just trim this down a little bit. Just trying to get the angles and the muscles right. Smooth that out. Go brush dam standard. Use our reference. So we've gone quite wrong here compared to the reference. This needs to come down. It needs to be more like this. Might get a little bit smaller, dam standard. Just kind of go like this. So I'll look from the side view. It's way too out. So I'm going to use my move tool, BMV, to kind of move all this back into place a little bit. Just move all this . I can hold down my Alt key and use the move tool to drag it out. Move it in a little bit here. Move it out. Move it out. Move it in a bit. Okay, the back needs fixing. Looking a bit strange at the moment. Let's go back in ourselves. Let's just make that a bit more obvious. We can fix the back muscles later. It's looking a little bit weird at the moment. Well, we can fix them later. We're just trying to get the general shape going again. Might actually go into trim dynamic and just clean this up a little bit. Make it almost like a fresh palette for me to resculpt on. Using brush clay build up. Gonna down mesh again. We'll come back to that area later. Okay. Smooth this out a little bit. Maybe clean up the rib cage a little bit. Make it a little bit more realistic in a way. Let's see if she had very prominent muscles, it would be more like that, but let's try and find a belly button, because humans without belly buttons actually look quite strange. So let's just give an indication of one for now. Okay, we can go over here to the deltoid and maybe fix it up a little bit. Brush trim dynamic. Push down standard. We don't want this to show, we want this to be a lot more smoother transition. We want a bit more of an armpit. Let's just make a bit more of that. And basically at this point it's just refining until you feel like you've got what you want to have. So right about here, I'm probably going to leave it here and move on to the next video where I'll be refining it further. And then the video after that will most likely be when we have completed the head in 3D Studio Max, if you've been following that tutorial, and then it'll be overall refinement, adding eyeballs, maybe some underwear to put over her. So yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorials. Welcome to the end of this tutorial. Feel free to comment with feedback and suggestions below, and you can also comment on what you'd like to see us do in the future. Thank you, and goodbye.